Hello and welcome to Alive with Amanda. Today we're going to be talking about the three stages of owning a private practice. And so I want to share that I've gone through these three stages. They are not like, it doesn't have to be like this way necessarily. I just was actually like on a consulting call with somebody and we were talking about the progression. So progression might be a better word, but of being a private practice owner. So step one is to be usually a solo practice owner earning as much money as you want to make, whatever your goal is. And so I'm just going to use like a nice round number. A lot of the times people want to make $100,000 a year. They want to be a six-figure private practice owner, right? Like, so step one, stage one, the progression is how can you make $100,000 or however much money you want to make? Maybe you're just part-time and you are, you only want to see 5 clients a week just to supplement your income. Or maybe you want to make $300,000 a year and you want to be private pay and you charge a premium and you see 20 clients a week at $300 an hour or something like that, right? Like, it can be a lot of different ways, but step one is to make the amount of money that you want to make in the way that you want to make it, whether you take insurance, private pay, virtual in person, and to really be comfortable with that process, right? Like, you know how to run a business then, you know how to market, you know how to close deals, you know how to do the things that, you need to do. Then the second step is usually where people look to start a group practice. And this is where I always recommend sort of like the first goal, the first step, the progression is to then have where your income is not feeding the practice. So again, if you made $100,000 as a solo practitioner, you're not writing yourself a check for $100,000. You have to pay some for, the electronic health record, maybe you have an admin, marketing, et cetera, et cetera. This next one would be that if you made $100,000 in your practice yourself, that anybody that you hired would then they would put in for all of the expenses, right? And you would be able to run the practice on the margins of anybody that you hired, right? And that usually makes like it worth it for whoever is doing it. Because otherwise it's like, why would you start a group practice if in some way it wasn't worth it for the group practice owner? Usually, because margins in therapy practices are really small, right? Like, you might, if you work for a group practice, you might say, oh, I don't believe that to be true. But if you work for other industries, the margins are very, very low, especially like if you think about other industries like restaurant industries, which have a high percentage of failure rates. So there's some things in there, like the margins are fantastic if you're running a very like profitable, business. Sometimes the profit margins can be very high. And like my sister works for Raising Cane's, and not that like I know their, exact profitability, but like when she tells me like how much I spend on certain things, I'm like, oh, that's nowhere like similar to like anything that we would ever like spend, nor would we ever have like the amount of revenue. Like, no mental health company, I don't even think like big companies like make anywhere near like what a big restaurant company makes, right? So it's like apples and oranges, but really the margins are low for mental health practices. Therefore, whenever a group practice owner, if I've been doing consulting with them, I'm usually saying something like let's make your income like you're able to take 100% of that income. And so, I mean, you might have to pay some taxes or some, there might be some things in there, but let's make it worth it for you. Like step two is like, let's make it worth it for you. Let's just not open up a group practice so you can just hire people, give yourself more work to do, and then you don't feel anything from there. And then step three is where you are not working in the business, you're working on the business. This is where the group practice owner will step away from seeing clients. Maybe they'll still see clients. I know a ton of group practice owners that still see clients, always want to see clients, even if it's a small case. So they want to be connected in that way. And so again, you get to decide what like stepping away from seeing day-to-day clients might look like. That might mean you're still doing consulting, you're doing training, you're still seeing a handful of clients, but you're not seeing the full load. You're not bringing in the most amount of money. So common is it that the owner is bringing in the most amount of money when I first doing consulting with them, right? Because they're seeing the most amount of clients. They built this practice and now they want to bring on other people. Like I'm always excited when you can see that flip. Like somebody else in your practice is making more money than you're making from seeing clients, right? Because then that means that you're able to step away. You're able to work on your business. You're able to do things like get contracts. You're able to do things like market, create a vision, create the mission, create the relationships, do the big picture strategic things. That's really where I'm at in my practice. I'm not seeing any clients. I am doing the big picture strategic moves, right? I'm looking at where we're expanding. I'm looking at what relationships that we can build. I'm working on things like financial planning. I'm looking at things like how we can add more benefits to our practice, right? Like doing those things. And I'm doing a lot of connecting with other practice owners at the same size that I'm at. I was not able to do that at all when I was seeing a full caseload. When I was seeing a full caseload, it was like I was doing the things I needed to do, like on my admin day, like rush. But I would have to full stop in my practice for whole days and not do anything. And when your practice sort of gets to a point, you're not able to do that. You need the time. So I'm going to give you some tips on when it's time to transition to the next phase of private practice. But first, I want to thank our sponsor, TherapyNotes. When I think back on my journey in private practice, when my practice was smaller and it really wasn't like as robust as it was, we used a different electronic health record. I think I've gone through like 3 or 4 electronic health records, to be honest with you, over a period of time for a variety of reasons. And when we arrived at TherapyNotes, it was really what I needed for a group practice. It was able to run all of the credit cards that we needed to run. It was able to house all the insurance information we needed. It had, all of the components to run a group practice at the front end for the clients, for the therapists, and for the group practice owner, right? So like those 3 phases I talked about, like as a solo practitioner, TherapyNotes will definitely do what you need to do. And then when you're running a group practice, you're able to easily add additional people. And then when you're managing your practice, you're the CEO of your practice, you're able to run tons of reports, and you can do that at all phases, but report running is my jam right now. And so you're able to really get what you need out of the electronic health record. And 2 things to talk about is Therapy Fuel. We started using it in our practice. We've seen people able to do their notes faster. They really like Therapy Fuel, which is the AI notes. And it's been really great. And then also their customer service. You have to talk about customer service. Our team loves that they can pick up the phone. They can call somebody from billing, somebody from intake, and the therapist, and we can get the help and advice we need from TherapyNotes. So thank you to TherapyNotes. So going back to when should you do these things, right? Like when do you hire your first therapist? Like don't wait till you're full. If you want to hire people, if you're thinking of starting a group practice, don't wait till you're full, because when you're full, it's too late, right? General rule of thumb is when you're 70% full or at a goal, then you hire your next person or your first person. So start before you're ready. Don't wait till you get full. When you are starting a group practice and you're wondering when to expand, again, get to a point where your clinicians are 70% or so full and add new people. Then figure out how many people you would need to add to be able to step away from seeing clients, make the same income you've been wanting to make, and run the practice and do the big strategic things that your business is going to need. My business, Caring Therapist, absolutely needs a CEO. So if I woke up and I had like one of these like Lifetime movie, Hallmark movie, like decisions where it was like, okay, I'm going to go back and see clients. Like that's my passion. I would have to hire somebody in order to run Caring Therapists. It's not like I could go back. You need you need a CEO. Like, so think about, do you want to be a clinician, the clinical supervisor, and the CEO? Like that for me is like a recipe for burnout. That's what I was doing before. I was all 3. Then I peeled back clinician, then I peeled back supervisor, and now I don't know what my fingers are doing, but now I'm CEO, right? And not only am I CEO, but I have other people on an executive team that help me because our practice has grown that big. So you're going to need to continue to evolve. I can maybe talk about, now get my idea for my next video is when to add a leadership team and an executive team. But I hope you're thinking about your plans for private practice. I hope this was helpful. I'll see you soon, everybody. Bye.